Welcome to Bald, Bearded, and Bold, the podcast for dads who are embracing fatherhood with confidence, wisdom, and a little bit of humor. Whether you're rocking the bald look, the beard, or just the bold attitude of being a dad, this is your space for real talk, dad hacks, and stories from the trenches of fatherhood. Let's build stronger families and better dads together. Now here's your host, Jason Haswell.
We're here on Bald, Bearded, and Bold. This is Jason Haswell, your host and podcast guru, I guess. I don't know what the hell you call me. A lot of people call me a lot of things. We won't get into that. But today we're here with our producer, KJ. KJ, give yourself a shout out while you're here.
Great to be back. I love doing this, and we do have a great guest today.
Oh man, this is big time for me, being a Valley boy, born and raised here. We have one of our great representative for the Ohio Valley and for everybody, in all honesty, who's had an amazing life. Rich Donnelly, former coach for everybody around here. Everybody remembers him for the Pirates, but he won a World Series with the Marlins and has managed all over baseball and has mentored many a young man in athletics and life, and has had an amazing life himself, and has had some loss and has responded in an amazingly resilient way. So, Rich, welcome to the podcast, my friend.
Well, thank you. Glad to be here.
Anybody that from the Ohio Valley knows, you're a Steubenville boy, and it's just, you've done amazing things for yourself. So give us a little bit of your, I know your background, but so our podcast people know. Give us a little bit of your background in baseball, and then we'll get into the meat and potatoes of your life.
Well, I grew up here in Steubenville, like you said, and I had a brother who played pro baseball when I was little. His name was Romy. He went to Notre Dame, and then he signed with the old Kansas City Athletics. Then he played for the Reds in the minor leagues.
Okay.
And when I was about 8, he went to spring training, and he came back and he told my dad. He says, "Make Rich a catcher." And so I was a catcher from that point on. I loved it. I played ball here in Steubenville. I played Legion ball, 1964, state champions, American Legion. Then I went to Xavier. And we're the only team in baseball or basketball history that we got a bid to the NCAA my junior year at Xavier, and we turned it down.
What?
Yeah, we got a bid to play Notre Dame in the regional, and our faculty was afraid we were going to miss 2 exams, so they said, well, we can't accept the bid. So that's when I decided I got to get out of there. And I was drafted by the Yankees, and then I was signed with the Twins. I played 4 years, 2 years in A-ball, 2 years in AAA. And I was in spring training with a big club, the Washington Senators, which are now the Texas Rangers. And my manager was Ted Williams. And my manager was Ted Williams. And during the season, I got mad at him one time, and I yelled at him, said some bad words at him, and I went home and told my wife, "I think we're done with baseball." I just cussed Ted Williams out, and she says, "What is wrong with your head? What is wrong with you?"
I just gave myself a train ticket out of baseball.
Then the next spring, Ted Williams, who I thought was mad at me, he recommended that I be a manager. He liked the fact that I cussed him out, and he recommended I be a manager. So at age 25, I became manager of the Greenville Rangers in A-ball. And then the next year I had a team in Gastonia, North Carolina, and the first baseman on that team was named Mike Hargrove. Wow. And Mike was phenomenal. He went from A-ball straight to the big leagues.
Yep.
So I played 4 years, and then I managed 10 years with the Rangers organization. And then I was lucky enough to go to the big leagues, 1980 with the Rangers. Then I stayed there for 4 years in the big leagues. And then we all got fired down there in Texas. And I hooked up with my good buddy who I knew in the minor leagues, a guy named Jim Leland.
Yes.
And we were together for 14 years.
That's how you and Jim
Coach
met? It was in the minor
Yeah, well,
leagues?
we knew one another from spring training. We played each other every day.
Okay.
And he was with the Tigers. I was with the Senators, Rangers. And we played. I was in Plant City. He was in Lakeland. We played every day, and we got to be good friends. And then when he got the job here, he hired me, and great years in Pittsburgh.
Oh, amazing.
And then they decided they didn't want to spend the money to sign Bonds, Van Slyke, and Bonilla and Drabek. So we went to Florida for 2 years. We're lucky enough to win a World Series.
Yes, you were.
Then they sold all their players, and we go to Colorado for 2 years, and Jim didn't like it there, and so went from Colorado to Milwaukee. Then I went to the Dodgers, and then later with the Pirates again. And then my last year's in the big leagues were with the Mariners, coaching for the ex-Pirate, my manager Lloyd McClendon.
McClendon, yeah. Yeah.
And then I went with the Mets for 5 years. I managed their team, their top rookie team in Brooklyn. And then my last year, I managed their team in Kingsport, Tennessee. And then COVID hit, and that was about it. I retired, and so just back here in Steubenville now, playing a lot of racquetball.
Yeah.
Giving lessons. I have about 60 kids in the Valley I work with, trying to get these kids into college and try to get them seen by college coaches, and then hopefully someday professional coaches. I do a lot of speaking around the country about our story, Chicken Runs at Midnight.
Yes, sir.
We just signed a deal to do the movie. We're all excited.
Oh, really?
We got Kevin Costner's producer who wrote a script, and our people that wanted to do it, they went crazy over it. So as we're speaking, we're waiting to hear back and when that's going to start. And so we got a lot of things going on. And like I say, the book has been a tremendous success, and we hope the movie is half as good.
The message is, and we'll have you talk a little bit about that here in a second, about what the Chicken Run that runs at midnight means. I know a lot of people have seen it on the ESPN on 30 on 30, which was spectacular. I think, your message is just amazing with what you've done, with your daughter, and then, unfortunately the loss of her and then your son, but what you've done to bring positivity to all that. And that's what we're about here at the podcast. I've lost my wife and raising my kids alone, and here we're just trying to give a message out to people who are kind of, by themselves sometimes and need a little bit of that. I think there couldn't be a better icon or symbol for that than you. You've had an amazing life, but have experienced some downs as well, but you've come through it amazingly, and you've helped a lot of people through the message that you've put out, and then your daughter put out. It's truly amazing.
Yeah, that's what I tell people all the time. I said I've learned more from my two kids than I've learned from school, from college, from anybody else. I always tell about my daughter Amy. She was amazing. She contacted cancer, a brain tumor at 17, and died 9 months later. But in those 9 months, she showed me how to live, and she showed me how to die. And then my son Michael saved a girl's life on a highway. He was hit by a car, saved a total stranger's life. So in this life, we're supposed to, we're supposed to teach our kids. But in my life, I don't know if I did a very good job at teaching them. I think my two wives did, but not me. And I tell people I've learned so much from them, and I try to live my life based on the way that they lived, by their example, what they did. And Amy, in her last 9 months, all she was concerned with was me, her brothers, and her mother, on how we were going to be. She wasn't concerned with herself at all. And then my son Michael saved the girl's life, total stranger, giving up his life, the ultimate sacrifice. So I had pretty good teachers, and they all happened to be a lot younger than me.
Well, they're your kid, but you raised them. I mean, obviously they turned out to be the people they were because of you and your wife and the message you gave them and the way you guided them through life. So you got to take a little bit of responsibility. But
like I say, I was away most of my baseball career. I was away 8 months out of the year.
Sure.
My first wife Peggy and now my wife Roberta, they're the ones that, Roberta ended up raising 8 kids almost by herself, and then my two daughters were at the Las Vegas shooting, and about 5 years ago.
I didn't realize.
Yeah, and again, I learned there was a lady, Tiffany and Leanne are my two daughters, and they were standing at the concert out there, and that nut shot from the Mandalay Bay, and the shots went right between Tiffany and Leanne's head and hit the lady in front in the face.
Oh my God.
And Tiffany and Leanne, I would have panicked. I would have ran. I'm a scaredy cat. They laid on top of her for 15 minutes of shooting until the paramedics came and saved her life. And in fact, I just talked to the girl's name is Natalie Grummett out in LA, and she's had 16 surgeries, and she's doing great now after all that time. And she goes around the country giving talks, but all the talks, every talk she gives, she says, I don't know what possessed those two girls to lay on top of me and not run. And and she calls me all the time telling me what wonderful girls there are. And I said, hey, I'd like to take credit, but I can't. That's all from them. That's all from Roberta and the way they were taught. And, so again, I've had a lot of great examples for my kids.
And your kids are great examples for the world. We need more of that today. I think, if people took care of the person beside them, a lot more, I think, it comes back to you. It really does. I mean, if you're good to others, that the world will be good back to you, and your kids, all of your kids are great examples of that. I just think it's amazing. I didn't know the story about Las Vegas. And
I tell people all the time, I says, the way I feel about my life, I have a debt that I can never repay. I try to repay it every day by helping other kids and passing on everything I've learned from my kids to other kids, to other parents, because I tell people all the time, I said, I hate when people feel sorry for me. I said, hey, I've had a great life. I owe a debt to my kids. I owe a debt to everybody else in my life who's helped me to try to make everybody else's life better. I said, I can't just wave a magic wand. I can tell them, but my kids showed me. Amy never said a word to me. Michael never said a word to me. Tiffany and Leanne never said a word to me about, hey, Dad, you ought to do this, this, and this. All they do was show me.
Yep.
And so I tell people, well, maybe in a small way I can show people what my kids did and maybe help them out. Because everybody, I found this out going around the country speaking, everybody has a problem somewhere along the line,
sure.
Whether it's sickness, whether it's health, whether it's death, whether it's financial, whether it's whatever, mental problem. Everybody has a problem, and then you got to fight your way to get through it. And my kids fought their way through it and showed their dad how to do it.
Well, and I just, one of the messages we try and send on the podcast, we're trying to, we get a lot of people out there that are, like me, single. I don't think single dads get, a lot of the credit that they deserve, but moms too, single moms, regular moms, parents, families, the whole thing. And we've gotten a lot away from, I think, values that put us where, we're so adversarial these days, and there's so much dissension in the world that, I think if people realized, if they just kind of manned up with the person next to them and tried to help them out and send a message like your two girls did in Vegas. I mean, they're covering up a person they don't know to help save their life. I mean, if everybody thought like that, the world would be a whole lot different place.
Well, I tell people, if we could get back, and I try to do this in my life, and like I say, I'm not perfect. We always try to reach for perfection. We're never going to reach it. But the values that we all learned growing up,
amen.
If we could extend those, they still work.
Yes.
They still work.
Sure do.
They still work, whether you're my age or not, or you're older or younger. The values still work, and in the long run, that's what it's all about on this life that we're given on Earth. I mean, once in a while you forget why you're put here or how you got here, and then what are you going to leave? I always say this: when you go into a library, and I just thought of this the other day. When you go into a library, most of what's in that library are people that have passed away.
Yep.
But they've left something for someone else to read and to learn.
Yep. And
I go, geez, what? Good Lord, what have I left for somebody to learn? I hope someday I could, when I leave this, they'll say, well, he left this. And, I always say that people that have written those books, most of them are gone. So their volume of work is going to go on forever. And I go, well, what is our volume of work that we can leave for our kids, for people who come after us. I mean, to me, that's a true measure of a human being. What can you leave for other people? What volume can you leave instead of living your life like a piece of fudge? A piece of fudge just sits there. It looks good. It tastes good, but it doesn't do anything. It just sits there.
Right.
And I said, it's terrible that and I've done it before. I was a piece of fudge. I hope I'm a little better now, but you just sit there and let everything go on.
Yep.
And you're not good. You're not bad. You're just bleh. No, do something.
Yep.
Do something. Help somebody out. And like I say, through my kids and all the other wonderful people I've met in this life, to me, that's what it's all about.
Well, Coach, I can say that I have been the recipient of your kindness because you have done so much to help many kids in the Ohio Valley, my son being one of them. He is playing Division I baseball right now. I have pictures of him with you from the time he was about 8 years old up until now. And your commitment with him from the time he was young and what you saw in him until last year whenever I saw you come to a playoff game in Steubenville where you came about an hour early to watch him warming up and taking BP. You came over and stood next to me and you said, those are the things, I know the kid can play. I wanted to see how he reacts with his teammates, how he interacts, what he does prior to getting into that game, because that's just as important. So you didn't only shape him when it came to the fundamentals, but you wanted to make sure that he was developing as a good person too. So you are following through with what you have said, because I remember talking to you, you're like, I have 3 Braylons all over the country right now. You can't keep them straight, but you're helping all of them.
Well, the reason why I have not a soft spot, it's just the way I am. I was his age once, believe it or not. I was younger than him. I had dreams. I used to go out in the alley and pretend I was Bill Mazeroski or Roberto Clemente, never dreaming that would be my life's work.
Yep.
As far as, I never worked a day in my life. I've had baseball my whole life. And I know what these kids are going through, and I know how much it means to them at that. When I was in high school, when they told me a scout came to see me, oh my Lord, it was like a scout from the Yankees come to see me.
Yep.
And I know what they're going through. I know what they're going through in college. I've been through the whole professional thing for 52 years. Like I say, I can't make every kid a big leaguer. I wish I could, but I can give them the roadmap or show them the way that you have to do. I've been fortunate enough to coach some of the greatest players that ever lived, ever played the game. Been around some of the greatest coaches and managers, of course, Jim Leland, guys like that. And all I try to do is pass it on. I try to pass on what I've learned to these kids, show them what's out there, tell the parents what's out there. Everybody wants their kid to be a great player, blah, blah, blah. And I try to tell them the good and the bad so that when something maybe goes off center a little bit, they're prepared for it. Not everything. Hey, I quit baseball 3 times.
Yep.
People don't know that. And my good friend who I grew up with, who ended up playing 15 years in the NFL, Danny Abramowitz, who was all pro with the New Orleans Saints. My best friend was an NFL player. Are you kidding me? And he wouldn't let me quit. And I think back to that and I go, maybe I can help some kid who's thinking about, maybe I'm not good enough, blah, 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 blah. Hey, I was from 127 Langley Avenue. I wasn't from California or Florida or Texas. And I just try to tell the kids the road you have to do, have to go on, the work you have to put in, and then what these great players that I've coached, what they do. Everybody thinks they're just good. They just stay good. No, they don't. Every day they're working to be better.
Got to work at it every day.
And some kids and parents, they don't know what hard work is.
No.
They think if you go out and hit 10 balls a day, no. You got to lift weights. You got to run. You got to study the game. And when I teach hitting to all these kids I do in the Valley, I take it up a step. I said, I'm trying to teach you how to hit. Like I have kids that are 8 years old, 9. I try to teach them for when they get to high school and in college what it's going to be like, so they have a better chance to adjust, because it gets harder. It doesn't get easier. You don't hit 600 in Little League and then hit 600 in high school and then hit 600 in college. The averages go down. Why? not because the kid's bad, because the competition is elite.
Well,
and you're playing against the best kids in the country. It's like Braylon. He's down there at Wright State. Hell, he just played Auburn, Ole Miss, and NC State.
Sure.
My Lord, half the team is going to be drafted.
Yep.
And you're playing against the best players in the world. So, and he's very well prepared for that. He's going to handle it great.
Well, and you got to remember, when you talk about hard work, and this is something I try to talk to my kids about, and is, you may be working hard, but there's always one guy that's going to be working harder. And there's probably another guy that's going to be working harder. And so you got to remember, take that extra swing, throw that extra pitch.
Well, I'm glad you said that. When I was little, my brother Romy, he played pro ball, and then unfortunately at 28 years old, he passed away from Hodgkin's disease. So, but he taught me a lot of stuff. And I remember once he told me before he passed away, he says, look, practice hard. And he told me this, and I still do it today. I still lift weights. I still play racquetball. I still do things. He said, when you work out, it's like you said, somebody else is always working out too.
Yep.
He says, if you do 20 push-ups, do 21.
Always do one more.
He says, whatever you do one extra. Because that other person you're going to be competing against, he's doing 20.
Yep.
Well, I do one more than him.
Amen.
Because everybody says, oh, this school got a good weight program. Hey, every school got a good weight program.
Yep.
Every college got facilities. Every college got this, that, and that. Same with pro ball. So it's very, very hard. And that is to say that a kid can't make it in college or high school. I mean, college or pro ball. But you have to know what's out there and how hard these guys work to get to that level.
And you got to be willing to work. You got to be willing to take that extra step and be willing to go that extra mile. Yeah.
I tell these kids in the summer, I said, what's your program? What do you do? Oh, well, I hit, we have two games a week. And then I said, what do you do on the other days? Oh, we go swimming and, we go picnics and stuff. And I go, you lied to me. Yep. You told me you wanted to be a player.
Yep.
That ain't how it works.
Nope.
That ain't how it works. And I said, up here in the north, we have to go inside. The kids at Texas, California, Florida, they get such an advantage.
Oh, they're playing.
They don't even have indoor. They don't even have indoor facilities.
Yep.
So, and in our sport, you have to really work hard because, like you say, the competition. And I think, if you talk to Braylon, you could ask him already. He's probably seen pitches you've never seen before.
Yeah.
I did
and
too.
guess what?
I'm sure.
And so you have, and that's not to say you buckle. I remember the first time I saw a 95-mile-an-hour fastball, I cried when to come home. and I was in A-ball, and I was playing in Orlando, Florida, and I called my dad. I said, Dad, I think I'm going to quit and come home. And the phone hung up.
Yeah.
And
he wasn't having
then
that.
I called him back and I said, Dad, I think I'm coming home. He says, well, if you do, the door will be locked. And then he hung up again.
Good for you.
So
Dad. Good for you.
So
Dad.
I stayed 52 years.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, Rich, we're going to take a real quick break here and then come back, and we're going to talk to you about. I'd like you to give us a little background. I'd like people to hear your chicken runs at midnight story a little bit, and then just a few anecdotes about your career, because KJ here has thrown me a few things that you've seen in your managing and playing career that I kind of want to delve into a little bit, because you got some interesting story. The one about Mickey Mantle and Billy Martin, I got to hear. This has got to be fantastic. So we're gonna give us a minute here. We're gonna be right back here on Bald, Bearded, and Bold with the ever present and wonderful Rich Donnelly. Thank you very much. We'll be right back.
Hey dads, need a break from the chaos? Whether you're changing diapers, coaching Little League, or just trying to drink your coffee while it's still hot, we've got you covered. Bald, Bearded, Bold is a podcast that talks about the best and worst things about fatherhood and being a dude. Also, we'll have some wild stories by our guests along the way. Whether it's sports, business, family, life in general, or whatever the hell you're talking about that day, you never know. So keep listening in. Now, back to the show.
Okay, here we are back on Bald, Bearded, and Bold. This is Jason Haswell, and we are here with our special guest, Rich Donnelly, former manager of the Pittsburgh Pirates. He managed with Jim Leland and managed with the Marlins, won a World Series with them, managed with the Brewers. Man, he's been everywhere in baseball. He's been everywhere. Teaches kids, still mentoring kids to this day. But we had talked a little bit about your kids earlier, and your beautiful daughter Amy and your son Mike, and the things that they have done to help other people. But there's a story that was on ESPN on 30 on 30 and in the book, and now apparently, since you've told us the wonderful news that it will soon be on the silver screen. But I'd like you to kind of just do a quick, if you could, just talk about the Chicken Runs at Midnight and let the people on the podcast know what that's all about, please.
Okay, it's 1992. I'm with the Pirates. We're in our third year. We won 2 division titles. We got a great team. We're down here. Everything's wonderful in my life. Just wonderful. I got 4 beautiful kids. I live down in Texas, but I'm working for my hometown team. I mean, you couldn't ask for anything better. And it's about this time of year. It's right around March Madness, and I'm sitting on the floor down there in Bradenton watching a game on TV, and all of a sudden the phone rings, and it's my daughter Amy.
Okay.
And she said, "Dad," and she hesitated. And she said, "Dad, I have something I want to tell you, and please don't be mad, but I have a brain tumor." And
can't imagine.
I was sitting on the floor, or else I'd have fell on the floor, and she was apologizing to her dad for getting a brain tumor. So we found out she went to an eye doctor for an eye exam, and she had no peripheral vision on the right side. They did the MRI, and they found a tumor behind her eye. And so they said, I talked to my wife, and they said they were going to operate here in the next week. So I flew to Texas, and they operated on her. And my wife and I, of course, went to the hospital. And when the doctor came out, he said he wanted to talk to us. And I said, "Oh, this don't sound good." And we walked into a room, and he was trying to be nice and stumbling around. And I said, "Doctor, stop. Just tell me straight up."
Sure.
Nope. And he says, "Rich, she has an inoperable brain tumor. We can't get to it. And our prognosis is she has about 9 months to live." And all I remember is going out into the parking lot. And if you ever felt so little in your life, or so insignificant, that's what I felt.
Yeah.
I was mad at God. I was mad at everybody.
Sure.
Why her? Why her? Why not me? I'm the idiot in the family. Why? And so I went then after about a couple hours, I went in and saw her, and she had this big steel thing in her head, and oh my God, it was all, her head was shaved, and
sure.
And now Amy, typical Amy, she goes, "What are you doing here?" And I goes, "What do you mean? What am I doing here?" She goes, "Dad, the Buccos need you. The Buccos got to win the pennant. Get back to Pittsburgh." And that's what I'm talking about.
That's
so
right, yeah.
anyway, I go back to Pittsburgh, and the season goes on, and we had talked to her. I talked to her every day, of course, and then Jim was on the phone one night. We're in New York. We're up in Jim's room, and he says, "You tell her that when we get to the playoffs, we're going to fly her up for a game." Oh man, she was thrilled because she loved the Buccos. She used to take care of the kids, like Andy Van Slyke's kids,
Yeah.
Doug Drabek's kids. She took care of that was her job in the summer. So anyway, okay, she flies up for a playoff game, the 5th game. We're playing 92. We're playing the Atlanta Braves. I think it's the 5th game, and Bob Walk's pitching. And her and her friend Cindy, my friend Vince Genovese, he flew them up in his private jet. They're sitting behind home plate, and we win the game. And after the game, Bubba, her brother, and Tim, and we're all driving back to the hotel. And I was driving. She reaches around me, grabs my neck. She goes, "Hey, Dad." She goes, when you got a guy on second base and you cup your hands, and what are you telling those guys? The chicken runs at midnight or what? And I'm going, "What the hell is that, Amy?" And we're just laughing. And I said, where'd you come up with that one at? And she says, "I don't know, Dad. It just came out. I don't know."
Yep.
So we laughed about it and everything like that. So we go to Atlanta the next night. Amy flies back to Texas for chemo. And right before the game, she sends me a note. And it said, "Dear Dad, the chicken runs at midnight. Good luck. Love, Amy." So Chico Lynn, our second baseman, he saw it. And he goes, "Hey, man, what's this?" And Chico don't even read English or not speak English. And so this is a miracle, another miracle story. As they're announcing starting lineups, we're out on the field, right? We're on the third baseline. And when they announce Chico's name, you can see it and hear it. He runs out and he's telling everybody, "Hey, let's go. Chicken runs at midnight. Chicken runs at midnight." He had no idea what it meant.
He didn't have any clue.
No, and Amy and Cindy, they were back in Texas and they heard it. They heard it because it was on TV.
Right, so they're losing it.
Yeah. And so she felt, man, she was a part of this. And I said, "Oh, man, if we win this game, we're going to win. We're going to the World Series." And I said, "Amy, you're going. I'm taking everybody. We're all going to Toronto, Canada. We open up there if we win." Well, we lost the game. That's the game Sid Bream scored to run, blah, blah, blah.
I had tickets to the World Series that year, so I was.
So did I. So did I. So we're going to go. So we go back home, and that winter, right around December, Amy lapsed into a coma, and she was in a coma for about 3 weeks, and at Dallas Children's Hospital, and she passed away on January 28th, 93. So we all go to the funeral or the cemetery, and I mean, it's terrible. They're trying to sell you a Cadillac for a casket or something.
Exactly.
And then they wondered they said, "What do you want on their tombstone?" Like Heavenly Flower, daughter, and I just looked at my wife, and I looked at Cindy, and I looked at Bubba, and I said, "No, I'll tell you what I want. I want the chicken runs at midnight on her tombstone." And so the lady goes, "Well, I'm not sure we can do that." And I said, "Well, if you can't, then we're out of here."
Yep.
And so she said, "Okay, I think I can do it." Well,
that's your daughter, man. Exactly.
They put that on her tombstone. Chicken runs at midnight down there at Arlington.
Awesome.
So of course, that became our family motto, and no one thought anything of it. So I stayed a couple more years in Pittsburgh, and then Jim got the job in Miami. I go with him with the Marlins.
Right.
And halfway through the season, we get a second baseman named Craig Counsell, who's now the manager of the Cubs.
Sure.
Well, Counsell used to bat with his hands up in the air and flip his elbow. So my sons, Tim and Mike, they called him the Chicken Man because he flapped his wings like a chicken.
Yep.
So we never thought anything of it. So sure enough, we do get into the World Series, and I'm like, man, Amy, I wish you were here. I talk to her every day. I still do. And so we get into the World Series, and we go to the 11th inning, and we're playing Cleveland, of course. And 11th inning, Edgar Renteria gets a base hit. Craig Counsell standing next to me at third. I'm coaching third. He scores a winning run. 80,000 people, 24 million people were watching this, going crazy, jumping around, everything. Well, when it was over, I'm trying to find somebody to hug. I'm trying to look for Tim and Mike because they're bat boys. They were in uniform.
Yeah.
So I see Tim at second base, and I ran over. And in the book, they have a picture of it. I don't know how they found it. They got a picture of me and Tim hugging, but Tim's crying, and he's screaming at me. He said, Dad, look. And I go, "Wait, what are you crying about? We won." He said, "Dad, look at the clock." What are you talking about? The stadium clock was right behind, like, third base. And I looked, and it was 12:02 midnight. He said, "Dad, Craig Counsell, the chicken, ran at midnight."
Amazing.
And I wasn't a believer in miracles. I never believed in miracles. I don't believe all that stuff. Well, I dropped to my knees.
Yep.
And I couldn't even, I don't know what the word is, I couldn't even be happy anymore. It was like, I couldn't believe it. I thought I got struck from heaven. I did. Because it's such, the chicken, Craig Counsell, scored a winning run at midnight. Something that she said that she knew meant the world to me happened.
It's on her tombstone.
5 years later. Yeah. And so that's basically the story. And then, years later, people started hearing about it. And then, we did the piece, Tom Friend did it on ESPN. Then he wrote the book, and now the movie thing. So all because of that night, all because of that night.
God was talking to you, man. God was talking.
I do what I do now. I go around and speak. I spoke to them. I've been in Tennessee 4 times, and I'm going to Richmond, Indiana here soon. People are hearing about this story 20 years after it's happened. And they told me the other day they're gonna re-release the part that was on ESPN.
Oh, good.
And put that on again. And they said it was so well received and anything. But that's basically the story. It's a miracle story, and everybody loves it.
Well, like I said, God was talking to you and your whole family and everybody about that was Amy holding his hand and talking through God. That's amazing, man. It's such a great story. Such a great story. Makes you believe. I mean, there's so much bad in the world right now. Something like that just gives you all the positivity and all the good energy that goes out. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Well, like I said, I'm not a big believer in miracles and stuff. I used to read about them and go, heck, that didn't happen. That didn't happen. And then all of a sudden it happens to you.
Yep.
And you go,
changes you.
And you go, it changes me. Oh my Lord.
Yep.
I tell people it's like an out of body experience. And I used to read about people having those and I go, I just made that up. That's not real. Well, I'll tell you what, it shook me to my core.
Yep.
And like I say, from that point on, I've changed my life, I think. And, I'm not perfect, but I said that straightened me up. Straightened me straight up.
You talk about leaving a legacy, what you're doing now and what you've done since. You're leaving that legacy, and your kids are that legacy. I mean,
well, I hope so. I wouldn't know. I told people I was raised as a number one altar boy in Steubenville, but later in my life, I wasn't even close to an altar boy.
You weren't stealing any communion wine, were you, Rich? You didn't do any of that.
Oh, Lord. Here's what I tell people. I said, in my life, my job for 50 years was third base coach, and my job was to wave players where they came from.
Yep.
They started at home, and I waved them back home. Well, I needed a third base coach in my life to wave me back home to where I was most happy, and that's what I needed.
Yep.
Amy became my third base coach.
That's amazing. Great story. Great story. Well, we're going to take one other quick break, then we're going to come back in one sec. And I want we're going to get a little more humorous here.
Have some fun
here.
Yeah,
because I want to, your message is amazing, but I got to hear this Mickey Mantle, Billy Martin story. So we're going to come back and see that in 1 second here on Bald, Bearded, and Bold with Rich Donnelly. Thanks so much.
Dads, sometimes we're superheroes. Sometimes we're just trying to find our car keys. If you love dad jokes, real talk, and stories about the highs and lows of fatherhood, tune in and subscribe to Bald, Bearded, and Bold. New episodes drop every week. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Okay, we are back here on Bald, Bearded, and Bold. This is Jason Haswell. We are going to finish up here with the wonderful and motivational Rich Donnelly. And Rich, we've gone over some stuff that's, been a little more serious, but now I got to ask you this. There's a couple anecdotes I've been told. I need to hear the hunting with Mickey Mantle and Billy Martin story. Because the fact that you went in the woods with guns with these two men astonishes me that you are still with us today. So I got to hear this.
Me too, yeah. I know my talks around the country, I tell this story because this is true. And here's what happened. 1974, Billy Martin was the manager of the year for the Texas Rangers, and I was AAA manager, but Billy had me come through batting practice, and I became his batting practice pitcher, and I also became his personal driver at night because I didn't drink or anything. And he liked to drink once in a while,
no, really,
like every 5 minutes. Anyway, so when the year was over, we had a boosters club in Texas, and they gave Billy a rifle because they knew he liked to hunt. So he was manager of the year. They gave him a rifle, and so when the year was over, he got the rifle, and he called me one day, and he says, "Hey, Rich," he says, "Hey, I got this new rifle." He said, "I'm going down to South Texas. Guy invited us down there to hunt. And my good friend Mickey Mantle's coming down, and we want you to go with us." And I went, "Oh, my Lord. Yeah, I'll go in a minute." Then I go, "Wait a minute. I don't even have a gun. I don't even hunt." he says, well, that's okay. Just come along anyway. So here I go. So we get in the car, Mickey Mantle. I'm just staring at him all the way down there.
Oh, I'm
that's
sure.
Mickey Mantle. He goes,
Yeah.
and he goes, I know who the hell I am. So we drive down about 4 or 5 in the morning. We get up, pull up to this farmhouse, and Billy says, now stay here. He said, I'm going up to the door and tell the guy we're here. Now Billy tells the story from here. So Billy goes up, knocks on the door. Guy comes, hey Billy, nice to see you. He goes, yeah, you guys have a heck of a time. He goes, I brought Mickey Mantle. I'll bring him in later, and I got my coach Rich Donnelly here. He says, you have a heck of a time. And then he went, hey Billy, could I ask you one question? And Billy goes, sure, what, anything. He goes, listen, I have an old mule up behind the barn, and I just don't have the heart to put him down. He says, could you go up there and put him down for me? I really would appreciate that. So Billy goes, sure, no problem at all. So he leaves. Now he comes back in the car. And he comes back in the car, and he gets in the car, and he's mad. He goes, that sucker. I goes, what's the matter? He goes, we drive all the way down here, and that guy tells us we can't hunt on his property.
What?
He says, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go up behind that barn, and I'm going to shoot his mule. And I said, you're going to what? He said, I'm going to shoot his mule. So I haven't got a gun. I'm sitting there. So he gets out, and now Mickey gets out the other side. And I'm just sitting there shivering to death, and all of a sudden I hear, bang, 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 bang. I go, oh, boy. So Billy walks down. He gets back in the car. Mickey walks down. He has his rifle. He gets in the car, and he says to Billy, he goes, hey, Billy, did you get that mule? He goes, you're damn right I got him. He goes, well, good. I got 3 of his cows.
Oh, shit. That's a great story. Oh, my God.
And as I recall, we hunted for about 10 minutes and then got the hell out of there.
Oh, that's great. That's great. There are not many people on the planet Earth that can say they went hunting with Mickey Mantle and Billy Martin. You may be the only one.
Well, I spent 40 days with Billy Martin at spring training, and I was the designated driver. You got to picture this, like right about now, spring training, I drive, and we'd start off at the Tiki Bar.
Oh,
I don't drink. So I just sit there watching Billy drink Chivas Regals.
Oh.
Then about 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock, we went to Benihana's to eat. And he pounded down a few more Chivas Regals. Oh. Then, now it's about 12:30, 1 o'clock. I'm dying. Yeah. I want to go home, go to bed. We got to be on the field at 7. He says, no, we're going to the Cheetah 3 strip club.
Oh, my Lord.
So there we go to Cheetah 3, and we stay there at about 4 o'clock. I am dying. And
so you got to be up in like 2 hours. You got to be up and on the field here in like 2.5, 3 hours.
Well,
yeah.
here comes the end. I go, okay, Billy, I'll take you home. He goes, take me home? Hell, let's go to the park. Let's go straight to the ball field. And we went straight to the field. Now, we did this for probably 36 straight nights.
Oh, my Lord. So you never got any sleep?
Well, they called Billy the man who feared sleep.
Oh, my Lord.
Because he never slept, and yet he had more energy than 20 people.
That's amazing. How did you make it through those 40 days is my question.
I don't know, because I don't know. I didn't sleep at all. Wow. Billy took a liking to me, and he treated me great. He was wonderful to me. He was
great.
So good to me. And I did a couple favors for him one time. Chuck Tanner's son was a pitcher for me, and I let him start a couple games, and the kid got the AA, and Billy said, oh, I'll never be able to repay you. And I said, yeah, you can. Don't make me your designated driver anymore.
Like, hire somebody else for that job. Yeah.
When you go with Billy, you ain't coming home.
Yeah,
I'm telling you.
He's in for the duration. Yeah,
you absolutely. Are in. Yeah, but he treated me great.
That's wonderful. Great story. And one last thing before we let you go. I know you're a busy man, and you've been kind enough to give us this time, but who is the best ball player you have ever personally witnessed?
Barry Bonds.
Barry Bonds?
Barry Bonds, period. I think Bondsy's the best. I think he's the best player that ever played the game. Because, first of all, before the steroid stuff, he was still the best player I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And he won 7 MVPs. 7. And stole 40 bases, hit 30, 40 home runs, scored 100 runs, hit 300, won 6 Gold Gloves. He could do it all.
Yep.
I'm prejudiced. I've never seen anybody better.
Yep. 5-tool guy could do everything. Amazing.
So, and he was the main reason we won 3 pennants here in Pittsburgh. And my only regret in baseball is we didn't get to go and win a World Series for all the Pirate fans. Because we had the best team.
We love those teams.
We had the best team.
I love those teams. That was a great. You guys were, and Jim was you guys were, you technically were a Pittsburgh guy being from Steubenville, but Jim fit in town like, nobody's business. And it was just, those were amazing teams.
My wife used to kid me. Our games were at 7 and I'd leave for the park at 10 o'clock in the morning. And she says, "Where the hell are you going?" And I said, "Hey, we have so much fun up there in the clubhouse before the game. It's like going to Candyland. It's like going to Disney World every day."
Yep. Blessed. You were blessed, brother. Well, Rich, thank you so much for giving us your story and your message and sharing, your kids with us and their message. And, you're leaving a legacy, brother, honest to God. Your kids are your legacy, and your message and the mentoring you do with the kids today. You're an amazing guy, and you're much needed in today's world. So I thank you so much for putting your message out on our podcast, and it's been a pleasure talking with you, my friend.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Anytime.
Hey, thanks so much.
Thanks, Rich. Take care of yourself now.
All right.
This is Bald, Bearded, and Bold, and thank you guys all for showing up today. It was an honor to have Rich. This is Jason Haswell. We'll see you again next time. God bless you.
That's a wrap on this episode of Bald, Bearded, and Bold, fueled by Sparks Media Agency and iHeart Studios. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to share it with a fellow dad. Got a dad win or struggle to share? Hit us up. We'd love to hear from you. Stay bold, stay bearded, and keep crushing fatherhood. Until next time.